To understand this, we have to go back and look at the original model that is sponsoring this thing. Number one, it has an arm in media. So even in confusing people, there's a media arm that's extremely intelligent, that manipulates information. They take advantage of the military tactics. They're taking advantage of the naive posture of the federal government. And until you learn how to neutralize the media, the financing, the think tank behind it, the people, like you pointed out, there's an ideology it's using. We need to be brave enough. Listen to me. We need to take pressure off Muslims in Nigeria. And I'll tell you the only way we can take pressure off Muslims in Nigeria. In the year 1095 or thereabouts, this same problem was in this world, but at that time it was sponsored by the Catholic Church. It was a hijack of Pope Urban II's itinerary. It lasted almost 200 years. The bloodshed was terrible. Now this time around, it is not using a Catholic cover. It is using an Islamic cover. There's a need, in the Western world, they have separated Islam from Islamism. But you see, even that is not good enough, frankly speaking. What we need to understand is that this thing, there's an African capture. Funnily, the whole world is looking at Nigeria for a solution to this problem. Why? Because we have within our borders here certain concepts and things that are available that can easily help us to isolate this thing that they don't have in the European world.
And so that would be what?
Well, again, he did mention some things here earlier on that
yes, indeed.
When it comes to counterterrorism and all that, when I said concatenate, people who are in the security world, as a consultant in counterterrorism and haven't been in the constituencies that's most affected in Nigeria, that's why I even know about these kind of things at all. Okay, and once you say, they said a word is enough for the wise. Once we concatenate, they'd understand what to do and how to. Within this country, there are foreigners who are coming in to study us here, because there's an example here that for the past 1400 years, we have a case study. We are also involved right now in studying it, that has successfully blunted the sword of religious extremism successfully for 1400 years. This is something that people from outside are coming in here to study. But we who are in here are so confused sometimes that we don't even understand the treasures that we have. The world is looking to us. We have an almost equal balance of Christians and Muslims, quote, as some like to say, in this country. So once it can be solved in Nigeria, it will help across the globe. Many of the countries we are calling on have the same problem. The first warning I want to give is this, is that the intelligences behind many nations would not mind Nigeria becoming the next Afghanistan. So even in seeking help externally, we have to do it with understanding.
And possibly wisdom.
A lot of wisdom. So we're dealing with something that has to be arrested now. We said this thing, actually we started saying from year 2000. But we were the first constituency then, the Christian constituency was the worst affected then. Kidnappings, there's nothing new about what you're saying. For many years we've been going to try and recover girls who had been kidnapped and had gone through the same treatment. But there was also a news blanket. It took us about 8-7 years to even get these things to be reported in the Nigerian press.
Is that your answer to getting the international community?
Well, like I said, track 3 is there. Diplomacy, the Levant option, I mean, people talk about the Levant option, it's there. And Nigeria needs to now take its own database, its own understanding of the Nigerian polity, and then we cautiously engage UN track 3 for a permanent solution.
Right.
But for the immediate solution, which is the girls, right now I can't imagine if any one of us here, if your daughter is missing from your home,
3 weeks now.
for 3 weeks, none of us here would be smiling.
Absolutely not.
So this thing has to be solved now.
Now, okay. Now let's look at the solution for now. In looking at solution for now, let me ask you pointedly. Some people have said that there is a lot of stories making the rounds that is not right, that is not fair, because it sounds, yes, politics, yes, this and that. In terms of solution, what should the government be doing?
Well, whatever stories...
And be seen to be doing.
Yes. Whatever stories are making the rounds, for or against, it doesn't change the fact that these girls are missing, period. What should the law enforcement agencies be doing? Of course, the law enforcement agencies will drive the successes or the failure of the government. The law enforcement agencies right now should be able to breach a vacuum. That vacuum ever persists. There is no connect between the public and law enforcement. People don't know what they are doing. People don't know what they haven't done or what they will do. What we get are probably platitudes. We are on it. It will get better. We'll overcome. But yes, something adds up to overcoming. Overcome doesn't just happen. I look to see a very robust relationship between the law enforcement and the media. Hey, we've done this much, we've done that much, we've set up this center, okay? We've set up this avenue, we've set up that avenue. Anybody with information, come forward with it. The girls that are missing, they have faces. The law enforcement can get to their parents.
They don't have faces because we don't know them.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
why is it that we don't know them at this time?
Exactly.
We don't have the
Don't be surprised. These girls could have been seen, or even just one of them could have been seen
buying something
by
across
someone,
the road.
and a photograph could just be a trigger. You see, we mustn't underestimate, as he said, anything or anyone.
So is this gap in the ability of the military agency or of the security agencies and the government to make sure that information dissemination is taken more seriously? Is this a missing link?
There is a crucial missing link. And that missing link, I tell you from what I know, is informed by a dearth of imagination. We are given to stereotypes, far gone stereotypes. And this problem is not stereotype. This problem is formless. So if you lack imagination,
Shapeshifter.
exactly.
There are also, stories making the rounds that actually there is information. The people have information, but they don't share it, or they share it to the wrong person.
Well,
How do you manage, this?
it's as simple as I told you, that our security agencies have to open their minds. Okay? The body language you are given is not one that says you are approachable. Let me give you an instance. We had figures released, and these figures were picked up by even international media agencies, and about 6 hours down the line, those figures collapsed.
It's called disinformation.
Disinformation.
Who gave the information in the first
That's
place?
it.
The compromise.
Thank you. Compromise. You see, when you are given information, we have what we call the information cycle or the intelligence cycle. You must pass your information through the cycle to confirm it before you release it. And there's another thing I observed again about our law enforcement agencies. They have this thing about media phobia. If I want to, let me call it media phobia. They are partners in progress, not Tom and Jerry or,
Enemies in any way.
Your partners in progress. When this thing started, when the state of emergency was
Imposed.
yes, I recommended something on these same channels. I said I'm looking to see a very robust war room with media presence. Okay, and this media presence is going to be actually a coterie of vetted media men. We can get them. It's possible. There is room for compromise. I mean, they say in every 12 there has to be one Judas. Law enforcement and intelligence agencies are no exception. But then this can be managed. And I tell you, the moment you have them together, there are information, there are leads you can get from a journalist. He doesn't have to wear uniform to know it. It's not about we are the ones to do it. It's about us.
Let me take you up. I'm sorry to interject. Let me
Yes.
take you up very quickly on this issue of a war room. The president has said we're at war. All his men from the presidency have said we are at war. Politicians have said we are at war. And yet Nigerians don't know of a war room that exists, talk less of an opportunity to see what is being discussed, or hear rather, what is being discussed in this war room. What would you recommend to the government as we begin to wrap up now in terms of the management of information?